this is Vivica Williams, and you're watching Head to Head. The war in Donbas has had ramifications in every aspect of life here in Ukraine, including the film industry. Today, we're speaking with Taras Tkachenko, a Ukrainian film director, about the effects of war and film. Thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you, too.
So I know that you've worked on many films here about war, and specifically this new documentary, Odessans in Donbas, you helped with the end product. So can you tell us about your experiences with war and film here in Ukraine?
Actually, I'm not a director of a lot of films about the war. I'm just a creative producer of that movie, definitely that movie. And our studio made about 3 documentaries now during last year about war in Donbas. But I participated in several movies about that. And I know that now we have, I don't know, numerous documentaries about that, because it's very warm and painful for us. And now we try and, Ukrainians get a new mirror. It's a bloody mirror, but it's another kind of, self-understanding for us. And the new way to create the new identity of Ukrainians because of war. And especially that movie about Odessits on Donbas. So the people who lives in Odessa, most of them are Russian-speaking. Actually, all of them, all the heroes of our movie. Most of them growed up in Russian culture, in the Russian world, actually. But in the period of the war, they decided they are Ukrainians, and they accepted the idea to give their life for Ukraine. But the problem started when they came back, and even their parents didn't support them. And they, for example, in our movie, one hero told us that his grandfather told him, "Why you hadn't been killed in Donbas?"
Oh, wow. Wow.
I suppose that you'll die in Donbas. And that was a problem for that people to come back in that beautiful city that
this large
mostly has the Russian breath. And, have their position, keep their position on the peaceful city. And the paradox of that situation, that they feel themselves much more hard in Odessa at home than on the war.
This is a common problem for soldiers, for anyone who's been in a war zone, is that coming back and trying to put that together. But you found it even particularly more difficult for people from Odessa, the ones in the...
Because, actually, for example, the soldier that comes back from Iraq, they come back to their house like heroes. And they come back in the country that, understand their tribute.
But for going back to Odessa, for people who have this culture...
They are going back to the people that actually support the enemy. And they are going to the city that mostly, or in 50% at least, want to be with Russia. And it's a miracle that we kept Odessa in Ukraine, actually, in 2014. And for us, that several people that presents a new generation of Odessa people that still speaks Russian, still thinks in Russian way, but they try to understand themselves like
they're
Ukrainians.
natural as Ukrainians.
So this is a process of renovating of our nation, probably.
And you said, you spoke earlier about the idea of how war has come to redefine film in Ukraine in a lot of ways.
Yeah, actually now we have a new way of Ukrainian cinematography, thanks to our Ministry of Cinema now in Ukraine. And we have a lot of future films and documentaries, and a lot of them are dedicated to war because, you know, it's topic number one for Ukraine now. And for example, right now just finished a huge future film about Donetsk Airport, about defending of Donetsk Airport, and we are waiting for the premiere of that movie in the next couple of months here in Ukraine, and I think that that movie will create a new sensation in Ukrainian cinematography.
Tell us a little bit about that movie then.
About
the Donbas, the one about the airport.
That movie was created by film director Akhtam Saitablayev that made before the movie about deportation of Crimean Tatars from Crimea after the Second World War, and now he just finished that movie that based on real situation, real events that had been in Odessa, in Donetsk Airport that during 2014 and 2015.
And there seems to be some overlap as well. One of the 7 characters followed in the film Odessans in Donbas also was one of the cyborgs, the fighters at the Donbas Airport.
Yes.
So was there a connection here, or that led to being able to see different sides?
No, it's like a common information field for all of us, because now our production studio will make another movie about defending of Lugansk Airport, because everybody knows about defending of the Donetsk Airport, but nobody knows that on the beginning of that war, in the summer of 2014, we had the same situation in Lugansk, and a huge battle, probably the first battle in that war, when Ukrainian troops during 3 months defeated that airport, and after they leave the airport, separatists didn't came during 3 or 4 days. They scared to came inside.
Wow.
And they came out from the Lugansk Airport with a fight, with a huge fight, and I know that they escaped, actually. They hadn't died like in Donetsk Airport. And that facts are not so common, like
as the Donbas. So the filmography is giving an opportunity to be able to show these things that people may have heard a little bit about, but to paint these
For us, you know,
pictures.
this is very important, because I'm telling that for us, the war is a bloody mirror, but it's a new mirror of Ukrainians. And now we're trying to understand that we can fight for our independence. And we can not only fight, but win. And for Ukrainians that, you know, had a lot of battles in their history and had a long story of fighting for their independence. And most of that was the story of falls, you know. The story of, we need now the story of win right now. Right. And that war shows us that we can fight and we can win as well.
And what other documentaries do you see coming out of this in the future? Or not even documentaries, but feature films.
Almost finished. This is a movie about the well-known opera singer, you know, that was killed in Donbas, named Myth. This is a great guy that was like opera singer in Paris, as far as I know, and after the beginning of the war, he came back and became a soldier in one of the battalions, and was killed on one of the battles. And I think that it's very important to make a film dedicated to him. And actually, war creates more topics around the war, like you know, adaptation of the people who came back from the war. The problem of the children that lost their parents on the war, and so on and so on, about wounded people and about adaptation of wounded people, and about the people who just changed their minds thanks to war, because they started their own businesses. They started to make another kind of life in Ukraine, and they start to make that country another. And it's very important that people that overcame the war, now they don't want to live, in the previous country, and they are doing a lot to change the country after they're returning back.
And how are these movies being received, the documentaries and films in Ukraine as well as around the world?
We have several premieres on international film festivals. For example, in Berlinale we had a film about one of the schools on Donbas, and the audience accepted it very warm, as far as I know. And I was on Berlinale, and everybody told me, "Oh, okay, you're from Ukraine, we saw that movie." And now I know that it's very successful on the TV screen, because everybody in Ukraine wants to see film about that, because it's very, very touchable for all of us.
Yeah.
But, in film theaters, not so successful, because mostly that was the documentaries before.
Well, and this is usually
this is very specific, things,
right.
and a very specific genre. It's never successful in a movie
compared to
theater.
feature films, right?
But that is why I'm telling about that future film, because I think that it will make another kind of sensation in Ukraine.
And when is it due to be released?
Oh, it's difficult to say, because it's not our movie. I don't know.
But it's still in.
But I hope to see it right now.
Surely.
They just present it on the international film festivals and the Ukrainian film days in the other countries. Now, I think after that they will release it in Ukraine.
Okay. Well, thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you for you, and thank you for your questions, because for me it's very personal, and I do appreciate that you are interested about that.
Actually, we're going to have one more question for you. So tell me about your experiences. You've, of course, gone to do filming in the war zone. How was that for you? Because I'm sure this made this more personal for you.
I was there very shortly in the beginning, and I was out of any, dangerous, actually. But, the problem is that people who came there first time, they absolutely don't imagine what is the war in reality. They don't know how to, feel the war. They don't understand how the war sounds. I don't know how to explain it, how it's going, because mostly this is a very boring thing. Nothing happens.
It's what I've heard. It's very boring with periods of horror.
But, you can spend about 2 or 3 weeks on the front line, and nothing will be happen. But you will leave the front line for half an hour, and there will be something very dangerous, and you don't know you don't have any
comparisons to make any way to be able to.
And you can never choose when it happened. Right. That is why it's very hard to make a movie, because you cannot expect something.
Right.
You should spend a lot of time there, just hoping that something will happen with you, with your hero there, but you are not guaranteed there. That is why most of the movies made not in a fresh events, but like a post scene of the situation, not like like a live documentary. And we don't have an experience of such a live documentary. I know the references of such a documentary in the world, but we cannot do movies like that yet, actually.
Well, thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you too. Thank you very much.
Today we spoke with Taras Tkachenko, a Ukrainian film director, about the effects of war in film. Thank you.